If actually a country in Africa,
actually, I want to
wait. There was actually a woman.
My
and
argument there wasn't good. My argument there wasn't.
She just gave birth at 70 years old. There's a lady in Africa. You can go look that up.
Wow.
Yes.
Good for her.
Women are evolving.
So
Women
are
evolving. God damn.
At 70, she literally just gave birth. Now, I'm not trying to be 70 having a baby. Let me just say that. But I'm just saying, like, it can happen. Anything, miracles happen. Anything's possible. I believe that God will do it. But I don't believe it's going to take that long. I sure hope not. But I'm just saying, it's one of those things where it's not a concern.
I don't mean to cut in, but the woman that you just cited, who was 70 years old, she gave birth to twins, but it was through in vitro fertilization.
Okay.
Yeah, through IVF.
Yeah. But she had the strength. She was the capability to be able to do so. But, and again,
was that miracle or was that science that did that?
Can be a bit of both.
Maybe a bit of both.
I'm not going to.
But I mean, you would even with in vitro fertilization, you would have to say that that's quite the exception to the rule at 70 years old.
Of course, agreed, and that's what I'm saying. Okay. But it's one of those things where you just can't count it out. Is what I'm saying.
You can't count it out.
How many
70-year-olds have tried, though?
70-years getting pregnant. You can't count those out.
Is that
yes, I understand.
Rare or is it just unwanted? How many 70-year-olds have tried IVF? Like, I don't think there's a statistic on it yet. You know, it's very new. And then I doubt there's many 70-year-olds trying to have IVF.
I doubt there's many 70-year-olds that actually want to. But I mean, I'm just saying. Yeah.
Well, it might not be that rare.
Their bodies at that point are not set for optimal pregnancy. Let's put it that way. It would be extremely high risk for almost any 70-year-old woman to engage in vitro fertilization or even natural birth if somehow they were able to get pregnant at that age. It would not be something that anybody would probably recommend in the medical field.
Hold on, I'll read it in a sec. Bad Choices. The ASRM estimates that the live birth rate for a frozen egg is 2% to 12% for women under 38 years of age, as well as a high probability of a premature birth. This is from the National Library of Medicine. Thank you, Bad Choices. Appreciate it, bro. You're a fucking legend. All right, we have grid 1. Is it gonna work? Fuck. Okay. I did not say they were undateable. I said it was weird. I don't think it's weird. You assumed undateable because that is where your mind immediately went, because that is what you believe. Wait, is this directed at me?
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
I don't think I said there.
I don't feel like
I didn't say anything about undateable. I just said I don't think it's weird. It's not weird. It's not weird at all. It's rare. But I don't think it's weird. I think it's more rare. Like, men are much more likely, I think, to be virgins than women.
At 25.
At 25. I think it's more likely.
I can see that.
Yeah, I can see that.
But I think that's not, like, due to attractiveness and, like, the thoughts that come to your mind first. I think it's also due to, like, disparity.
Women are sleeping around.
I think it's due to a disparity in men's mental health care.
They don't do that. What?
I think it's due to a disparity in men's mental health care.
You think men are virgins because there's a lack of...
They don't go to anger management. I think it's...
Hold on. You just went to fucking places.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I did.
You think men are virgins?
I think a lot of men are virgins because they're angry, and it's hard for them to have a partner when they're so angry.
That's a hot take. Andrew, what you got for that?
Yeah, I mean... I would just either the logical evidence for it or the empirical evidence. I'm fine with both, but I would like to actually know what the rationality is behind why you think that men, when they're in their early 20s, are not getting together with women.
Grid 1 Motorsport donated $100. I did not say they were undateable. I said it was weird, and it is. You assumed undateable because that is where your mind immediately went, because that is what you believe.
Okay, sorry, that kind of like distracted me. Lost my train of thought slightly. I think I need those numbers on the screen, like over my face right now. My point about like men being angry and that leading to them being virgins is the fact that like some men, as I've seen on like forums that are more than just like red pill oriented, like straight up pro incel forums, there are guys who are like just angry and seem to feel entitled to sex and angry and don't understand why they get laid. And I think that lack of confidence and like the mental anguish and anger that they hold is just perpetuating their cycle of virginity.
No, I mean, how many incels do you think there are?
I don't think there's that many. I think more men are good than bad. My boyfriend is a great example.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then you kind of contradict yourself.
I don't think there's that many virgin men either.
No, but if you look at the rates of men who are staying virgins until they're,
I don't know that statistic. So you'd
26,
have to
27.
You'd have to
hang on a second. Let me finish my point here. So if you're looking at the data here, I would actually like to know why it would be that you would correlate this with anger issues, just because of some shit you read on forums, or?
No, because I'm not looking at the data here. I don't have the statistics in front of me. If you can tell me how many men in the world in their 20s or whatever are currently virgins, then I might form a different opinion, but I don't know. Okay. The only ones I know of...
Well, let's forget that for a second then.
Okay.
Nickelodeon donated $100. A man was drowning in the water, turned away 2 boats saying God would save him. He drowned and asked God in heaven why he wasn't saved. I sent you 2 boats, idiot. You talk faith, don't refuse a gift.
Yeah, it's a pretty funny joke. I've heard many variations of that. But yeah, back to this. If you don't have the data and you're not familiar with the data, then there must be some logical or rational reason why you're coming to this conclusion.
Well, it's just based on like guy friends and people I've like seen online, and just like it's only based on like a statistic based on the amount of males I've seen that are virgins. But that's not all of them, and I'm not suggesting it is. So it is quite likely that if we tallied up all the male virgins in the world, there's much greater reasons than just their anger and lack of mental health, or maybe just in America too, like even if we did that tally. But from what I've seen, and from all these forums that have been put out in recent years, pro incels and for incels, those specific men are extremely angry, and I do think they would have less trouble getting laid if they weren't so angry and if they were just confident in themselves.
Can you give me the name of any of these forums?
Mostly on Reddit. Just mostly on Reddit. I like Reddit.
So just Reddit?
Yeah, there's a lot of people use Reddit,
that these people are angry because you read it on Reddit?
What?
Nick, can you boost the audio a little bit on?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Well, you seem to be coming to the opinion that with your rationality is the reason you think that young men are staying virgins for X amount of years because they're angry, even though maybe most of them aren't, but at least a good portion of them are, because you read it on Reddit for.
No, I didn't read that verbatim. I've seen a lot of angry men complain about their virginity and perpetuate their virginity by doing nothing but complaining and feeling entitled to lose their virginity. I'm not saying that if we tallied up the score on every man that chooses to be a virgin or doesn't choose to be a virgin and is in their 20s or 30s in this earth, then that statistic would prove correct. I'm saying that's what I've seen, and I think that does apply to some, not all, but some, maybe many. I don't know. We don't know the statistic. We don't have the virgin calculator.
Because you've seen it on Reddit.
No, because we don't have the virgin tally.
I mean, we do have the data on this, but absent the data, because you don't know the data.
Well, there's no log for virginity. The government doesn't send a pussy census. There's no log on virginity. Like, no, there's no data on that. That's something that's up for speculation.
Well, yes, there is. They use a self-reporting system to figure out how many men are staying virgins or not staying virgins. The same way we would collect all data in sociological fields. So, yeah, we do have data on this. So you don't know what that data is.
Can you pull up that data?
Hang on, I don't expect you to know what it is. I do want to know what the rationality is, and it seems like the rationality is I read it on Reddit. So,
can you pull up that data, please? I love to learn things.
Well, actually, I think Brian can. I think he has it in his hot seat. He can just pull up how many self-reported men are reporting virgins until 25. Yeah.
Grid One Motorsports donated $100. So it is weird for men to be virgins, but it is not weird for women to be virgins? Interesting. Do you not understand that it is purity and youth that men value? It's and not either.
No, I don't. I mean, I personally have a couple guy friends who are virgins still, and they're actually both 30 years old. And it's, again, tied to their faith, though. So it's not odd, but if you aren't part of that community, then you wouldn't know, you wouldn't understand. So, there's nothing wrong with them. They're not socially awkward. They're not ugly. They're like, it's not anything like that. I think it's just a standard. And then I know a guy who, he personally decided to wait because he had a friend in college who was accused of rape, who'd never raped a girl, and then I forgot about that.
I wasn't even really paying attention. Where's that coming from?
What?
Why do we need to hear the anecdote about the college sexual assault? How is it related?
I was just saying because for him, he was like, if he wasn't even messing with any girls, then that's why he decided not to. Sorry about that.
Good job.
Forgot.
All right. Cool.
She's saying her friend didn't trust women based on a friend's story, but I think that also ties into like my point that like I think that's like a trauma that he unraveled on himself over a potential scenario that's not of high likelihood. And I think that he could have resolved that in therapy.
I don't understand. Okay, cool. What's the whole thing? You're saying incels are angry? Is that your whole point?
I think most incels are angry. Involuntary. What it stands for, yes.
This whole incel thing is pretty much the biggest absurd moral panic I've ever seen. If the mainstream claims about them were true, we would absolutely be fucked. The number of men without sex lives who want them must conservatively number in the hundreds of thousands across the Western world. I don't know, in reality, the number is probably in the millions. If incels were really as dangerous as this moral panic claims, we would be seeing epic levels of violence, and we're not. So we've seen a few tragic events caused primarily by a toxic combination of mentally ill people. Yeah. And easy to access firearms, and
I agree
it's primarily about mental illness. I think
I agree that statistic's probably in the hundreds of thousands.
Mind you, a lot of these events are hardly restricted to incels. A lot of these are just mostly mentally ill people.
But I said men need mental health care.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, it's not limited to them being incels. Like, men need, in general, like, they need better health care, and they need to swallow their pride and be willing to get mental help more often. They don't often enough.
Cool story, bro. Cool story. I don't know if
Not going to tell it again, don't worry.
That's good. Hold on one sec. Let's see. All right, let me do some other chats here. We have Bender the Offender. Hold on, this is getting pulled up. Oh my God, it's lagging. Sorry, guys. Apologize again for all the issues with our TTS and our. It's obviously not ideal for us. It's kind of disruptive the way it's coming through. But Kentucky had a bill passed in their Senate that would allow women to collect child support payments for an unborn child. Thoughts on this? It's actually a good question. I heard about this. So basically, like during the pregnancy, you mean? What do you guys?
I think that's really valid. I think if the woman is going to have to pay for the pregnancy, like just the medical stuff, literally while they're pregnant, like hospital visits, things like that, time they need to take off work because they can't physically be there, things like that, I think are justified. I think asking for anything beyond that before the child is there, though, is not justified.
So what is justified?
I think that like splitting the medical necessary costs of while you're carrying the child.
Let's say she gets pregnant by a guy who's financially well off, and maybe she's a little less well off than he is. Would you be in favor of the guy paying more than split to cover her medical expenses?
No. I think that it should be split unless her financial situation is preventing her from getting the necessary health care.
So before I ask you a question, just going around the table, how do you guys feel? Do you agree with her? The question is, Kentucky passed a bill for Senate that would allow women to collect child support payments for an unborn child. Presumably this would help cover.
The Bronasons donated $100.
Prenatal
of course,
expenses.
men have to make all the compromises for Western women. Either grab your passports or play Helldivers 2. Thoughts will be thoughts. Say Christ is Lord.
Yo, the Bronasons, thank you, man. Appreciate it. Okay, the previous question.
I think I generally don't agree, but I also am from New York City, so we have like access to abortions and stuff. If the guy didn't want to keep it though, and like she's like hypothetically like the term like trapping or whatever, I think then it would be wrong. But I also am not educated on Kentucky's abortion laws. So with that being said, I think that makes a huge difference, because if there's no ability or opportunity to terminate the pregnancy, then...
Grid 1 Motorsports donated $100. I told you, chat, man haters, there is a reason they are single and unmarried, and you are seeing it live. Ladies, you need to take a long hard look at what your value system is, because you are wrong.
Boom, roasted. Okay, thank you, Grid 1 Motorsports. Appreciate it. Not sure entirely who it's directed towards. So,
I
your
think
thoughts
it's silly.
on the men paying
Pretty
child
silly.
support before she's given birth? Okay.
I think, especially if the woman is struggling and it was a decision like that they both made together, that would be helpful.
What is
Split
the
it.
decision? What is the decision that they both made together?
To have sex.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Can I just? I'm just a little confused. I mean, I feel like our bodies are made to protect the baby and take care of it. What payments are you getting?
I feel like on that note, part of the reason why I feel the way I do is because I do have personal medical issues where if I do get pregnant, it will be a little more extra than everybody else typically would for a normal body. So for me, if I got pregnant, it would be a lot more medical bills. It isn't as simple as just going to get an abortion or just carrying this like with minimal medical obligation, if that makes sense. So I feel like it should be a case by case and not necessarily general. But that's why I say that depending on the case, if there are large medical bills to do with that pregnancy, 2 people participated and 2 people have a responsibility.
Okay, I'll come back to that, but
I agree with her. I think it would be helpful, but at the end of the day, I think that's why it's important to have values and morals so that that situation doesn't happen.
What situation?
So that, like, having sex with somebody you're not sure of whether or not they're going to stick around or you're going to have a relationship. That's why it's very important to know who you are, so that when you are out there dating and, you know, sexually active, that you're not doing it with the completely wrong person.
Okay.
So you're avoiding the situation altogether.
Okay.
I approve.
Approve. Okay.
I think it definitely would be helpful for certain women in whatever situation they're in.
Okay. So going back to, I mean, a lot of you seem to be in favor of it. So going around the table then, are you pro-life or pro-choice?
I'm pro-choice, and I think I'm the only one not in favor of it. Yeah, I'm pro-choice, and I think I'm the...
You're not.
Oh.
You're not in favor. What about you?
I'm pro-choice.
That's interesting. I'll come back to that.
Pro-life.
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 Okay. So for you guys here, I can sort of see your position on this a little bit. I'm a little confused by your position, though. So a woman who, for example, would you agree that a woman who's not financially ready to have a child, would you think that that's a perfectly justifiable reason to get an abortion?
Honestly, yes.
What if she's just not ready to, maybe she is financially ready, but she just doesn't really want to be a parent yet?
I think that no matter what point you're in your life, you can have so many underlying tiny reasons that have led you to decide that, I think she should have that choice.
What? here's another scenario. So she would otherwise be financially ready. She's otherwise ready to be a mother, but remove that for a sec, Nick. But she just wants to keep partying. She doesn't want to, deal with a kid right now.
I think that's irresponsible.
Well, but should she?
I think that it's still not our place to choose for her.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. I think
So
I can disagree
it,
with why she's doing it, and I can be like, wow, that's a really dumb decision.
Sure.
But she should still have the right to choose.
So let me ask you a question. What about in a scenario where you put a man in a situation where he's had a casual sexual encounter with a woman, and he doesn't want to have any children, and the woman gets pregnant and she wants to keep the child, and he wants to, what would you say to him when he says to you, well, shoot, I don't want an 18-year responsibility, I don't want to pay child support? What would you say to him?
I think that he has a certain obligation to do that. I don't think that he has any obligation necessarily to be, I hate to say this, but a parent, because they did not make that decision together. He gets a choice just like she does to be involved in that life. But I think that the second that you have sex, you are kind of putting that risk up, because I definitely know a lot of women who felt that way. There was just a hookup, then they got pregnant, and now they have that 18-year obligation, but they can't just say no, Because
yeah, but this is a very strange position. So you said that you essentially support on-demand abortion, correct?
I think with limitations, yes. I think that the term of which you should be able to get an abortion should be limited. And I do think that...
Wait, sorry, Andrew, if it's all right, I just want to have a bit more of a back and forth, but I'm happy to have you jump in on this on just a sec. So, what do you think about deadbeat dads?
I've met deadbeat moms too, so I think a good parent's a good parent, and they'll step up if they'll step up.
But would you look, like, for example, a man who didn't want to financially support an unwanted child, would you look down on him?
I think I would equally look down on that in the way that I would look down on an absent mother, to be honest. I think that... As
opposed to sorry, I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. I'd love for you to clarify so I could give a more accurate answer.
Well, no, it wasn't so much that, but when it comes to the woman's side of getting pregnant, having an unwanted pregnancy, you're very clearly very progressive on this. You're very, by your own admission, you're pro-choice. However, when we look at the opposite side of this, we look at the male side of this, you're basically like a Bronze Age pro-lifer when it comes to men's responsibility. So why is it, for example, that you object to, you seem like men have an obligation to financially support a child despite his lack of ability to do so, or despite his lack of not wanting to do so? You seem to be kind of, I don't know.
Think it should be indefinite. I don't think it should be just like they have to no matter what. It should. The thing is, my view is a very, very case-by-case basis, which is why it's so hard for me to give you such a direct answer. So I definitely think that there are women that try to baby trap men. And I get that. And I also get that sometimes, it's the opposite way around, too. I've seen that as well, men that try to baby trap women. So,
okay. Well, the current state of the law is, regardless of the motivations of the woman, whether she was trying to baby trap him or they were being a bit careless when it came to protection or whatever it may be, if a woman chooses to keep the child and the man doesn't want, the man has no say. Really quick, just like the people that are pro-choice are only pro-women's choice when it comes to men not wanting to be fathers. Most pro-choicers turn into Bronze Age pro-lifers when it comes to the male side of reproductive rights.
I completely see what you mean, and that's a new perspective for me to look at it. I still believe that women should have a right to choose. A lot of my opinion, I will say, comes from the medical side of things for why I am pro-choice, because I personally might not be able to survive carrying a child to term. I know several other people that are that same way, And there are so many states where if I was there, I would just die because you're not allowed to have that choice.
Okay.
And so for the men's side, I don't honestly have super clear determinate views that I have created for myself, but I do think that there should be some level of choice, especially the way that you're saying that now. I realize that I'm definitely misrepresenting the way that I wanted to say that. And so I think that men should have some kind of choice, whether that be that they have the opportunity to say, hey, I don't believe that I should be locked in this for 18 years. I believe that I took responsibility for my part of this, and she's choosing to do this. There should be some kind of court where you're able to show that it was not malintent, that you got this person pregnant, and that you should be able to have just as much freedom in that choice as they do. But in that case, I think there should be some sort of government support.
You should have to petition a court to do that?
No, I'm saying there should be a different route than there is now. Like, there should be something in place that there currently isn't.
Yeah, there's nothing.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying, is we should have something in place specifically for this if we're wanting to give both of them a choice.
Well, that wasn't your position earlier. Your position earlier was, when it came to the Kentucky thing, not only should men pay child support, they should also pay before the child's even born, which is totally unprecedented in any state in the U.S.
I think for medical bills,
I don't think, well,
they should have to help.
Men should have to pay.
I think the thing is, I think that this should also involve that they should have the choice to go and prove that they, shouldn't have.
But you can't coincide, like, you cannot hold the pro-choice position, but also your position should be men should be obligated to pay for a woman's health expenses related to pregnancy. You know what? You're welcome to ask questions, but you ought to wait until I finish my sentence before you ask if you can ask a question.
Well, that's how we were instructed to interject if there's no
opportunity. But you know how I was in the middle of a sentence and you interrupted me? Can you not interrupt me?
Interrupt it
no, there's how there's
no
periods?
gap.
You know how there's periods? Yeah. You can kind of wait until there's a period.
And then it leads directly into her response, and then I'm interrupting her instead. I just wanted to know if you would still be pro-choice if you didn't have any medical factors in play. Not you personally, just in general in the world.
Wait, if
there was no medical complications and everyone could just birth freely, would you still be pro-choice, or is it because of the? I think I get where you're coming from.
Yeah.
And I think it's
that's
your take being different is very personal, and I think I understand. I can empathize with it.
Yeah. No. I honestly don't really have an answer for that, because I feel a lot of my position comes from it being medical, from a lot of medical stuff. There's just the abortion laws of there's so many people that have been put into poor medical positions just because their body wasn't prepared to have that pregnancy and now they need to keep it. But if that was taken away, I think that I would lean a little bit more towards pro-life, but I would still be in the middle because it's not my life. It's not my body. But as for men, I think that the reason that my position is changing is because a lot of what you've said has definitely opened my eyes to a new perspective that I hadn't looked at previously. Mm-hmm. And thinking about it like that, especially with you saying Bronze Age, pro-lifers, I do see what you mean with that, with how I view it. And well, I do think that everybody should have a choice. I just think it's so convoluted and so hard.
It's not hard. No, it's very simple.
Legally.
I think it's very simple. Here's my position. In any state where a woman essentially has the right to murder her unborn child, a man should have a corresponding right to totally relinquish any responsibility or obligation to that woman financially. That's my position.
I think that's valid.
I don't necessarily perfectly agree, but I do definitely.
By the way, is Andrew's stream quality better? It looks better.
It is. It is better.
I think it fixed.
Yes, it's
okay.
It's going much better. I wonder if I can just ask you a quick couple of questions. The first question I had for you is: do you think in the first 3 weeks, for instance, that termination of a fetus that's not a human life?
I think it's as much of a human life as an egg is a chicken.
Okay, gotcha. But understand that you supported the fact that the first 3 weeks of pregnancy, that a man should have to pay support in that instance. This would make the determination that this is a human being, correct? Child support would infer that this is a what?
I think that in an anti-abortion state...
Hang on.
Sorry.
Child support would infer that this is a what?
It would infer that it's a child, so I see your point.
It would infer that it's a child, and so if you're asking for support for a child, how can you then hold the two conflicting views that this is not a child unless you determine that it is because you want money?
It's not a child, but I think that I would only consider this in states. It highly depends if that state has abortion, like what their abortion laws are, to be honest, because if they're forcing the
we're talking about the Kentucky abortion law. The Kentucky abortion law says that for a pregnancy, you can begin to collect child
the
support
offender donated $100.
Sorry, Andrew, one sec.
This an extreme example, but imagine if this law passed in a state where abortion was legal up until birth. The women could just take money from a man, then abort the child.
Ooh, I don't think...
Wow, that's another consideration.
It's a good point. I don't think any state should allow that.
So moving into the Kentucky law, the inference here is that this is a child, right? How could a person who was pro-choice take the money to begin with? Because then they would have to be admitting that this is a child, correct?
Well, I think that's if it was the whole question originally was about the state of how Kentucky's bills are currently. I think
and
that
you
if
supported it.
If you're if they have to keep the child, if the woman does not have a choice to keep the child, the man
that's a caveated position now, because your initial position was that you supported the fact that a man would have to support this pregnancy, and you said this is due to cost considerations. If that is true, then and you would take the money, then you would have to be admitting that this is actually a child, yes?
No, I would be admitting that my body's going through something that needs medical bills and money.
I see. What you're saying there is it's not a child because you want money.
No, I'm saying that if a child, a fetus from the first part where it's not a child yet, they're still affecting the woman's body in a medical way where they need to pay for that. So at that point, no, you're not paying child support, in my opinion. You are paying medical support because you've put this woman into a medical position that requires money. It's not about the kid, in my opinion, at this point, because as I said before, most of my stance comes from the medical side of this. So that's why I have that view, is because if the woman is needing to pay to, do the things they need to do for their own body, regardless of the fetus child.
Okay, I understand. Then what your position actually is that, no, I don't consider this to be a child. I just have the expectation that men will pay for and support whatever decisions you make for the pregnancy. Whether it be that you have the child all throughout the term, or if they pay for the abortion, halvesies on the abortion, I don't know. But that's the actual position, right?
Well, I just stated that I think that should only be true if it's in a state where the woman doesn't have a choice either.
You mean where a woman has to to bring the pregnancy to bear, can't get an abortion early?
Exactly, yeah. If they're obligated to go through those medical things...
Yeah. So let us assume for a moment that she can get an abortion in this state, and they have a law which says that the man would have to assist in the payment. Would you be against that law?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I'm only for the man being obligated in a way that the woman is as well.
Okay, I understand. Well, that's at least consistent, right? So when we can deconstruct it back a little bit, it's at least a bit consistent. So, but just understand that the law is basically stating this is a child right from inception. That's why child support is available, is because they're considering this to be a child.
I understand that. I'm looking at it from the medical and obligation point of view for literally what your body is actually going through and the costs that come with that. So for me, I'm looking at it just a little bit of a different direction than just the ethics of whether or not the fetus is considered a child.
Yeah, but medically, life begins at inception. That is the medical standard.
True, but I'm not talking about the fetus, I'm talking about the mother. The mother's the one who needs to pay. The mother's body is the one that's going through that, whether or not you get an abortion. But only if you have to carry that do I think that he has to help support you in that. I do think they should be able to argue the circumstances of it, but I think that in a general rule, if the woman has to pay those medical bills and they do not have a choice to have an abortion, then the man should have some part in that obligation as well.
Yeah, I don't think that that's the portion that's being argued, though. If we're going to assume that it's a living child from inception, I don't think anybody would say that the man wouldn't have to take care of his end of that obligation. But rather, we're trying to determine whether or not it is the case that you believe that this is a life to begin with. And if you don't, then asking for support as though it is seems inconsistent to me.
I don't think that you're asking for support for the fetus, though. You're asking for support for your medical bills for your own body. Even if the woman decides to get an abortion, that costs around $600 to $2,000, depending on where she can go. And so if the male counterpart of this responsibility is not willing to even a little bit help out with the medical bills, the woman...
Well, no, I mean, that's ridiculous. If his standard is that that is a child, why would he be obligated to assist you in your abortion?
No, he wouldn't. That's what I'm
saying. You're essentially
for
asking
abortion,
him to murder from his worldview with his money, right?
No, I'm saying if the woman cannot have an abortion, then the man should be obligated. If the woman can have an abortion, the man should have a choice as well. That's what I've been trying to say this entire time. I just don't...
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know if that came across right.
I'm trying to be charitable to the viewpoint here. I just noticed that was a massive inconsistency, but it seems like you've moved it back to a more consistent standard for us. So,
sure.
I appreciate that.
Good talk. Sure.